Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, along with my co-host Candy Ebling, and leading off and playing first base. I think that's another sport, baseball. Rick Curdy. Well, Can, glad you had you back on.
Thanks, Scott.
Hey, how are you guys?
We're doing great.
Rick.
Doing really good. Ready to talk some sports tonight. So, just so you know, this broadcast is on the South Florida Tribune broadcast. You are listening to the Sports Exchange. If you want to follow us on Twitter, at Tribune South Gets It Done. All right. Anyways, Rick, let's go over to some of the top headlines. Tom Brady is going to wear the number 12 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Chris Godwin gets number 14, and he did that out of respect. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, I think it's great. You know, when you see someone go to a new team, they always want to keep their number, and I've seen it where they paid them extra money, say, hey, I'll give you whatever for that number, whatever. Some just give it to them out of respect. So thumbs up to Chris Godwin. You know, Tom Brady's probably the best quarterback in NFL history, and he's deserved it, 20 years with one team, and finally he said, you know what, it's time for me to get paid. I'm going to go somewhere else and prove to everybody that I'm not a system quarterback. And Chris Godwin said, you know what, I'm glad to have you here. You can have whatever you want here, man. So you want my number, you got it. So thumbs up to Chris Godwin.
Worked out quite well. All right, next subject. The NFL will adopt the 14-team playoff format beginning in the 2020 season. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's it's good for I guess it's good for the fans, to see more, and they're going to add an extra game. I know some of the players weren't very enthused with it. They didn't want to see an extra game or see it expanded. But in the past, there's just too much money there on the table for the players to not vote on it. So I think it was pretty much going to happen anyway, and it's not a big surprise. So I think it's good for the fans who want to see more football.
And, of course, it won't hurt that the players are going to get some more money in their pocket either. All right. Let's go on to the NCAA. President Mark Emmert says that he will take a temporary cut in his pay by 20%. 9 other executives are going to get 20% taken off, and the VIPs get cut 10%, and the rest of the president's cabinet 10%. So when we talk about the vice presidents, the presidents, all the higher ups, it's safe to say that, you know what, it's good that they're doing it, but it can rest assured that they can feed their family.
Yeah, they're not going to be hurting. I don't think they're going to be waiting for their $1,200 check that they're. I don't think they're waiting for that. So it's a nice gesture. It's really great. But these guys are like multi-millionaires, just a little fraction of what they did. But at the same time, I love what they're doing. I love how you see people taking cuts or helping out and stuff like that. So during this time of crisis, so it's a thumbs up for them. But like I said, they're not going to be hurting or starving. But the gesture is great.
Yeah, anytime you can go out there and see that people are giving back, and now we're seeing a lot of this. Unfortunately, the death toll continues to climb very rapidly. And again, this is something that who knows when there will be an end in sight. I'm being forced to do a lot of Zoom calls. The only Zooming I've ever liked is what I do on the interstates. Now I think I've had 4 Zoom calls in the last week. But getting back on point, there are a lot of great gestures out there by everybody on the planet. And at a time when this country definitely needs them, it's good that everyone at every level is doing it in every sport. It to me, and whether it's the NCAA, individual players, clubs, and whatnot, it's still very good, considering this is the most unprecedented time in our country's history, and I don't think we'll ever see anything like this ever again, or at least hopefully not in my lifetime. Candy, some thoughts on that?
Hopefully not in my lifetime either. I've never seen anything to this magnitude take down the entertainment business. When you're sick, your mom would say, okay, go back to bed. I'll bring you some chicken soup. We'll turn on the TV and you can watch whatever you want. And you could always be able to watch sports. And nowadays you're watching reruns of sports or other things. It's just very unusual times, unprecedented.
That's true. But I think Rick and Candy, what's nice about it is I really enjoy what we're doing because it's our objective here on the Sports Exchange and South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network to let people know that we work very hard to make sure you have an alternative source of entertainment. So for all you guys that are listening to the broadcast, all I ask you to do is, listen, download, and subscribe because it's important that we're going to work diligently with every single show to make sure that you have a positive opportunity to put your time to good use. But yeah, it's, and again, you know what, whether we're going through a crisis or not, we all aim here as a team to make sure that everything is done in good taste. So let's go on to our next topic, Rick, and that's Frank Reich says that the Colts studied Tom Brady, but in the end, he felt that Philip Rivers was a better fit. Well, when you're his quarterback coach and your offensive coordinator, that word called familiarity, comes into play. We've seen that word familiarity all too many times. Some thoughts about Philip Rivers in a Colts uniform.
Oh, well, it's going to be weird, just like seeing Tom Brady as a Buccaneer. So, Chargers didn't want him anymore. He's been there for a long time. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. And, he's going to go to Indianapolis, and we'll see what happens there. I don't know if it's going to be a quarterback competition with Brisket or anything like that. So I don't know if he's going to be the starter, so that would be interesting. And how does he feel about Philip Rivers coming to the Colts? So that's going to be an interesting thing there. And what Frank Reich said, it sounds great and all, but it all boils down to money. Hey, you can get Philip for cheaper than Tom Brady, who got paid pretty much everything he deserved because he kept taking so many pay cuts. So I like what Frank Reich said. Is very politically correct and all that stuff. And, we went with Philip Rivers, but, it's all because of money.
Yeah, not only that, Kobe Brissett took the news well. He didn't like it, but he didn't have any choice, and he is familiar with it. So who knows? Maybe it's an opportunity to sit there, carry a clipboard, and learn under somebody that's done it well for so long. And again, you're talking about the fact that the Colts are in a win-now situation. And let's not lose sight of the fact that Frank Reich was a mastermind behind Nick Foles and Carson Wentz winning the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'd like to think that Frank Reich, a guy who engineered the greatest comeback in history.
Yeah, not only did he do that in the NFL, he actually did that in college, too, when he was a quarterback in Maryland. So he did two of the greatest comebacks in history in the NFL and college. So, yeah, I love Frank Reich. He's an excellent, excellent coach, and I think the Colts really dodged a bullet when Josh McDaniel turned down the job. I thought they did way better hiring with Frank Reich, and I fell in love with Frank Reich when I heard his press conference. I mean, the passion he had and his plan and how methodical he was, I said, wow, and he's going to make a great coach. So I think the Colts did an excellent job of getting Frank Reich.
Yep, and let's go on to Dave Gettleman. Okay, Dave Gettleman has one more season to turn the Giants around. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens to their quarterback. And, he was here with Carolina, and he did a great job here. And then a couple of years later, everyone hated him, so they fired him. And now he's with the Giants, and he's probably this will be his last year. Maybe another year they might give him, but I think this is it. And if he doesn't do anything this year, if they don't make the playoffs, he's gone. And like I said, the Joe Judge hiring was, to me, a head-scratcher. We have so many other better head coaches out there. Marvin Lewis is out there. So I don't understand that coaching decision at all. And we'll see. I mean, maybe he'll surprise everybody and be the next Bill Parcells, or maybe the next Joe Gibbs, or he can be the next Ray Handley. I mean, we don't know. So, but I'm still kind of scratching my head on the head coaching hire.
Okay, and finally, let's go over to the NCAA decided to grant baseball prospects an extra year of eligibility. Some thoughts. They chose not to do it with basketball, but they had most of their season complete anyways.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. We'll see if we have a season or not. That's the big thing right now is how long is this virus going to last? And, everyone's schedule's been pushed back. Seasons have been canceled. So we're not going to know anything or see anything yet till, this virus goes away. So it's just a day-by-day thing.
Okay, Rick, so let's go ahead and why don't you talk about what you're looking to promote?
Well, I'm the founder and CEO of the Charlotte Bats, and let's bring MLB to Charlotte. Our website is www.charlottebats.com. We're also on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. We're on Instagram. I actually have 2 accounts there at Charlotte Bats, and then my personal one is Rick Curdy. And we're just trying to get the word around for MLB Charlotte. We have a Facebook group page called Charlotte MLB that we just started. And we'll see what happens. You can check us out at Charlotte Bats Baseball as well. So a lot of different formats you can follow us on, and our email address. If you have any questions or comments, or you love or you hate what we do, we want to hear from everybody. It's cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. That's cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com, and hope to hear from you and sign our petition.
All right, one other thing I should mention that came to mind. Okay, we had you on Friday night with Bill Winters. Why don't you tell me how much fun you had doing that broadcast?
Oh, I had a blast. I mean, it was great. I mean, the time flew by so quick. Bill's a phenomenal radio personality. He was a great football player. Very interesting life, and I love his passion. And man, we covered everything. Politics, sports, what's going on right now. Talk about the old football leagues. We're got on the subject with the XFL. We talked about the USFL. We talked about the World Football League and all that stuff. So I had a blast with him, and I'm excited to do it again.
Don't worry, that day will be coming tomorrow night. So that's why I wanted to make sure that round 2. And I think just to kind of let our audience know that I know you're in the process of working on some of the greatest rivalries in sports, right? How are you coming along in your research?
Oh, it's going great. I already got 10 right away. When you told me about this, I had 10 right off the top of my head, and so many great rivalries in all of sports. And, I'll tell people what I think is the best rivalry, and I think they're all great, but I think there's one on there, that's number 1. So I have my list ready. I'm ready to jot down some more. So rivalries all over in basketball and hockey and baseball, all over. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Anything else you want to add in closing?
I just want to say thank you guys for having me on here. I love being on here. I love sharing my thoughts and opinions on here, whether people agree or disagree. It's all about having fun, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys in the future. And if Bill's listening right now, I just want to let you know that I subscribe to your YouTube channel. I'm following you on Twitter, and I'm also following you on Instagram, Bill. So I got your back. Can't wait to work with you again.
Oh, no. Well, I'm sure he'll appreciate that. Well, now he's actually trying to get involved with Instagram. So apparently there was a knee-jerk reaction to all this technology. And with all the time that he has to burn up here during this quarantine business, Mr. Winters is trying to figure out social media the best way that he possibly can, for sure. So, but I'm sure he'll appreciate that. The one thing I say about Bill, and as well as a lot of the people on our team, is we do work hard and we try to perfect our craft all the time. So, all right, Rick, we'll talk again tomorrow. Good job tonight, okay? Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night. Be safe.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks,
you too.
Rick. So, anything you want to add to it?
He talked about a lot of different things. I would say, the NFL has become a prove me now type league. It's not you've got years to perfect everything. It's we need to win sooner rather than later. And so I think, some of these GMs, some of these coaches, they're finding that their job is more on the hot seat than it ever used to be. There used to be a lot more patience in the NFL, and I don't think there is anymore because there's so much money involved in the NFL.
Right.
Even especially for like your head coaches. I mean, look at Mike McCarthy. He had how many years great in Green Bay, and then they let him go, and now he's going to be the new coach for down in Dallas. How long do you think he'll be coaching there?
You know what? That's a great question. Okay, I actually think that Jerry Jones hasn't had a coach of this nature for a long time. So I think he'll do well in Dallas. Jones has made a lot of mistakes in terms of how he's done things. when he let Jimmy Johnson go, that's the biggest mistake that he really made. And Barry Switzer got a ring that was handed to him. So, I got to tell you, to me, that's a great question. And I think McCarthy's going to be revered in Dallas. I really do.
You think so?
Yeah, I just hope that Jerry Jones gets it right and puts Johnson in the Ring of Honor.
Do you think Jerry will give Mike McCarthy enough latitude to do the things that Mike wants to do, or do you think Jerry is too involved that Michael?
Another excellent question out of you. And the fact is when Jerry Jones had some suggestions for McCarthy's staff, it's not going to happen. Jerry backed off.
Okay.
No, but it's a fair question. But I think Jimmy Johnson should be in the Cowboys Ring of Honor. I really do. Why he's not, to me, is anybody's guess. I mean, to think those guys used to be connected to the University of Arkansas, and all of a sudden he was brought in from the Hurricanes to straighten it out. What has Dallas done since those Super Bowls? They haven't won anything.
So, on the flip side of that, how much latitude do you think Bruce Arians gives Tom Brady?
More than you think.
Even though Bruce has been a very well-known coach, has his way of doing things, you think he'll give Brady more latitude?
Well, I'll give you one thing. 6 Super Bowl rings. What do you think that warrants?
I agree, but he has a different title. He's a quarterback. He is not a coach.
Well, but you'd like to think that he's a coach on the field, right?
I understand. And I understand. Brady deserves some respect. He does have a little bit of a championship pedigree. But you always wonder, how often are they going to, will they let him, call audibles on the line, or, because let's face it, let's look at example. Obviously, I'm a Packer fan, so I watch a lot more Packer games.
Right.
Matt LaFleur, how often did he let Rodgers just call whatever he wanted to?
Well, now that's a different animal. One would have thought he should have, but the Packers decided to play conservative by running the football. But the difference between Aaron Rodgers and Dan Marino was Aaron Rodgers was receptive to the idea. Dan Marino was looking to pad stats, and he wasn't going to comply with Jimmy Johnson. But that's yet another fair example.
And you just look at all the other coaching changes. I mean, let's go through who else is coaching changes this year.
Oh, I mean, you have the obvious ones, right? We have the one in Carolina with Matt Rule.
But you have a quarterback change there, too.
Well, not but you have 2.
Well, right. So you've changed. I'm just saying.
You have the backup, P.J. Walker, who comes from the XFL, who played under Rule over at Temple University, and Teddy Bridgewater.
But I'm just saying for the differences. So now Phillip Rivers is going to a new team. He's got to go with a new coach, but yet it's a new old coach.
Right.
So there's familiarity already there with them.
Right.
Who else? So who's going to be the quarterback in Patriots?
Well, that's to me, they're talking Jared Stidham, because he obviously sat under Brady for a year, but now he'll get a really good opportunity.
Is that the $5 million question or the $10 or $15 million question?
We'll call it TBD.
That sure is interesting, and it's drawing a lot of people's question marks to see who will take over for the infamous Tom Brady.
Infamous or famous?
Famous, I'm sorry.
Oh, that doesn't matter. It depends on what area you look at. Are you looking at infamous or what?
I guess you're right.
It's okay. No, it's okay. You can make a case, a good case both ways as far as I'm concerned.
And how about the quarterback controversy kind of over in Chicago now?
I don't think there's a controversy there, Candy. Nick Foles, I think, will ultimately get the job.
You think he will?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mitchell Trubisky's going to be pushed really hard. And the reason why is Matt Nagy's on the hot seat next. Meanwhile, our next guest here, welcome to the Sports Exchange, is our NFL insider, David Levin. And David, welcome back to the broadcast.
Hey, guys. It seems like it's only been a few minutes since I've talked to you.
Doesn't it seem like that way with Jim Donnan? My goodness, I'll be darned.
Was that not awesome?
Oh, Jim Donnan was great.
That was great. How's everybody doing?
Well, we're doing fine, thanks.
Good.
Talking football with Candy, so...
We're just talking, our NFL football, that's all.
Yeah. Think about it.
Okay, well,
And now you get to do it next.
Gee, okay, cool. You want to talk a little more football?
Sure, why not?
Yes, the show's built on that.
Okay. How you doing? How you doing, Candy?
I'm doing well, thank you, David. And you?
I'm doing well. I get a big grin on my face right now.
Well, yeah, why is that?
Because we knocked the Donnan interview out of the park. That was amazing.
It was a great show.
That
There's
really
no
was
question
cool.
about that.
That was
Oh,
a
yeah.
great show. That's the best we've done yet. So let's try and knock this one out of the park, too.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk a little Jaguar football because there actually was some goings-on down in Jacksonville today. Head coach Doug Marrone, who, by the way, Donnan talked very highly of in our interview. You guys will have to listen. He spoke with the local media talking about a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of Gardner Minshew, a little bit of team report, basically an off-season update. Right now it's a little bit different, and I know that there is no statute for this, as we've discussed with other sports, because of COVID-19. Things have changed as far as the way the teams are, dealing with players and what's going on in trades and free agency and everything. So this is new territory. But as starting to talk about Gardner Minshew, I'm sorry, I've got notes in front of me. As Coach Marrone talked about, he and his coaching staff are trying to stay in contact with players as much as they can. They're trying to still get them to find out, what's going on. Do they need help with things? It's you want to call it housekeeping? Housekeeping things that you work about. And then he talked about what he would like to see for the season. Talked about the NFL draft, and talked about Gardner Minshew quite a bit about how he wants to see his quarterback, improve, take a leap, take a jump. I don't know what you want to call it.
Right.
Where the Nick Foles trade was official today. So that means that he is no longer a member of the Jaguars at all. It does mean they're still on the hook for his $18.75 million contract this year.
Right.
But let's just say Minshew's the man, basically. Unless they decide that they're going to find we're not going to talk about this. I know we already talked about this, but unless they find a veteran quarterback to come in, or there's an injury or something like that, or Minshew's the guy they're going to roll with. And to me, that's a pretty good deal.
Right.
You have to, like you've discussed, you have to roll with the guy, who got you to the dance.
Right.
And I would think that Minshew is the kind of guy who gives you more opportunity. He is not a statue in the pocket. He's a mobile quarterback. I think his arm is a little bit better than people gave him credit for.
Right.
And above everything else, and you've seen it, Candy's seen it, he provides so much excitement on that field when he's there.
Right.
He plays with heart. He plays with passion.
He also has one killer Fu Manchu, which I'm very disappointed that I can't grow one. And I'm old enough to be his dad, and I can't grow one.
That's funny. So go ahead.
I mean, it's funny that we're sitting here talking about the Jaguars, but it's not just the Jaguars. It's 31 other teams that are in the same situation as they are. They don't know when they can actually coach players this off season. They have to be told by the NFL what's going to go on. We have the draft coming up in 3 weeks, but there's for all we know, it's still going to go on, but we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know whether what we're going to see, what the media is going to see, we hope Vegas. It may be just a representative from all 32 teams, and that's it, and the commissioner, and essentials. It's going to be very weird and different. For right now, they're moving forward, but I think they're probably crawling until they're told what their next step is.
Right.
It's a very odd situation. It's not like we've had football strikes before, and we've seen tragedy in sports and whatnot, but there really isn't anything like this that I have ever seen. 48 years on this earth, even with 9/11, because sports help bring back the masses after that tragedy. Everybody's just waiting to see what's going to happen before it kind of levels off. But so today, Marrone talked about the basics. He wants the offensive line to play better. He wants Minshew to take the next step forward and be the leader of this team. He did talk a little bit about Unique Ngakoue, which I thought was really interesting. That he loves Unique Ngakoue, and he gushes over him whenever he talks about him, what a team player he is and how hard he works and his intensity and all this stuff. But he also said that he wants Jan to be happy. And Jan has expressed that he's not happy being in Jacksonville. That you're one of your two best defensive players on the team right now wants out of a city that he doesn't want to be in. And I know that for his 25th birthday, which was today, he basically asked to be set free. That if he wants out, why won't they just either trade him or do a solid for him, which isn't happening right now.
Right. Well, every time you turn around, somebody wants out of there anyway. So, I mean...
it appears that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Ramsey wanted a bolt, and they're making some bold trades that some of them which I didn't understand the logic behind them, but I don't know. I mean, but of course Tom Coughlin's gone too, so.
Yeah, it's a different situation because you and I, the three of us talked about that. I think we all thought that maybe things would level off a little bit once Coughlin was gone and people had time to heal a little bit, or maybe cooler heads would prevail and things might get back to being normal. But you get the feeling that there's still disruption in the front office. Jan, we don't know the situation with Jan. We don't know what has been said. We know the contract negotiations were cut off last year. That's about it. We don't know what kind of money they offered him. We know what he wants, which was $22 million a year. I thought that because of all the money that they saved by trading players, they put together a package and offer to him. We don't know if that's been done.
Right.
But he just doesn't want to be here. And am I wrong, Scott, in saying, if the guy doesn't want to be here, let's just get him out of here?
Yeah, but here's the thing. The reason he don't want to be there? Losing culture. That's all. Mm-hmm. Guys get fed up after losing it a lot. I mean, let's face it, we'll go back to the Detroit Lions. Barry Sanders retired early when he couldn't get a trade. Calvin Johnson, the same way, left because he couldn't get a trade. And they move on. They figure, I've got enough money. I'm not going to get killed physically if I can't win, or at least I don't have an organization committed to it. So, nowadays, certain guys can only take they're only worth so much money. Otherwise, explain why Jadeveon Clowney is still a free agent, because they overplayed their hand. I mean, Jameis Winston will have to come down to earth if he's looking to go to work and collect a paycheck. Same holds true to Cam Newton. You have to take the old Ryan Tannehill deal.
Yeah, that worked out pretty well for him, though, didn't it?
But still, it's a prove-it contract is really what it is.
Right.
You'll start seeing a trend of that, too, more, David. You'll start seeing a lot more prove-it contracts. That'll be the newest trend in the NFL. Just watch and see.
And I tend to agree with you. And this free agency period obviously has proved that if there's ever a benchmark that is going to start a trend, it would definitely be this year. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know what happens next. It's kind of a weird thing. The Jaguars still may make some moves in free agency before the draft. They could possibly make another trade. I just don't know what direction they're going in, but I do know they still have $20 million in salary cap money they can spend.
Right,
and that includes a $17.878 million that they're supposed to pay in Ngakoue. If they happen to trade him, well, then that's $37 million they've got available, and they actually could make a mega trade of some sort where they pick up a big time player. But that probably wouldn't. That doesn't fit the idea of them rebuilding a franchise, does it?
Right.
Okay.
So, all right. So we talked about Doug Marrone wants to see Minshew take the next step, and so to me, do you think that Minshew will be able to take the next step? Because now I hear there's talks about that potentially Jacksonville drafting a quarterback in the first round.
Yeah, I read. I'm glad you brought it up because I read that maybe 20 minutes before the last time we were on the radio.
Right.
So I was eating, like we talked about, and I was trying to fill in what I missed. The Todd McShay of ESPN threw it out there today that he thought the Jaguars would try and get Justin Herbert at number 9, which I think is outrageous.
Right.
But it stands to reason that if a quarterback is there that you like, and you have an opportunity to take him, and he can improve the franchise. And by the way, that's something that Marone said today. If he can find players who can improve the roster and improve the team, then he's going to look at them. He didn't say what positions. He didn't say, this person needs to perform or step up or whatever. Other than Minshew, they want Minshew to be better. But if they can find a player who can help the running back position, or somebody that can help them at wide receiver or on the offensive line or somebody, they're going to look at them. So, what if Justin Herbert's there at 9? Do you draft him over Derek Brown? I don't think so.
Right.
Do you? Let's say Herbert falls to. Okay, you take Brown at 9, and then we really do believe it's going to be a defense. I believe it's going to be a defensive tackle if he's there.
Mm-hmm.
They say that's still their biggest need. You'd agree with me on that, I think.
Yeah.
Candy, you agree too?
I do, believe it or not.
Okay, cool. Let's say Justin Herbert falls to 15, and he's just sitting there, and Denver doesn't need him because they got Drew Lock last year. And I know that Denver wants a wide receiver, but there's plenty of wide receivers to take in the first 2 rounds, but there aren't franchise quarterbacks. And the Jaguars know that while everything is great and they want Minshew to improve, what if he doesn't? What if he doesn't take the next logical step? Justin Herbert, mechanically, is a better quarterback than Minshew. Maybe not with the intangibles, but if you look at the prototypical quarterback, Justin Herbert fits that mold.
Well, David, let's talk about the Jaguars' history of drafting quarterbacks. Blaine Gabbert was drafted in the first round, not very good. Okay, Blake Bortles wasn't bad. At least he takes you in his AFC Championship game. So you've had 2 first-round misses, so to speak, and now are you potentially looking at another third one or an impact player that could be around 10, 12 years? That to me is, if it were me, but I'm not making these decisions. I go after the big impact player.
I'm playing the devil's advocate here about it. I don't think you draft a quarterback in the first round.
I don't.
I certainly wouldn't. I'm sorry?
No, I don't either.
No, and I don't like the other quarterback options that they give them in other mock drafts. I'm not sold on this kid Jordan Love, who they believe is going to be has the potential to be a Patrick Mahomes type quarterback. Well, he's got a weird windup. He's got a weird release. He's got plenty of pro potential, and he throws a nice football. But he's not Patrick Mahomes.
Well, there are many people that are Patrick Mahomes.
Well, exactly. But you can't. With a team that's rebuilding like this, if you're going to draft a quarterback, you have to be dead on right now.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about that. See, a guy like, what's his name, the Utah State kid again, Jordan Love.
Jordan Love, yeah.
Right, he belongs with a guy like Josh McDaniels, okay, where you have an opportunity to go ahead and be a project quarterback, and you have some good offensive people with the Patriots. And yet the Patriots really seem like they're really high on Jared Stidham, so they really are.
Right, they are. I've also heard that they like Jake Fromm, and I'm hoping that's not the case. But I've heard rumors that they like Jake Fromm. But remember, too, we thought that when they got to this kid named Brady that he wasn't going to amount to anything either. Evidently, they saw something in him late that they developed. And Belichick has a habit of developing players, so we don't know for that matter.
That's true.
Well, I agree. So, TBD. All right, so let's go over a couple of other things while we have the time, okay?
Sure.
We're talking about Jan, who's asking to be traded. I don't care if anybody's asking to be traded. So what kind of a trade is it going to take for someone to bring to make that transaction with the Jaguars? They're going to have to get as good a return, if not better, than they did for Jalen Ramsey.
And that's what I was going to – I'm glad you alluded to that. the Jaguars aren't going to let him go unless they get a package. For everything that Ramsey was in 2017, which was the benchmark year for him, Yannick Ngakoue was just as good with 12 sacks and I think it was 6 strip sacks and fumble recoveries and touchdowns and whatnot. And he can still produce like that. He just turned 25 today. He's a very young and talented pass rusher, and maybe can grow into one of the best in the league. I mean, he is one of the best in the league, but he still has some hiccups he's still got to work on. So they're not going to just send him away for a second-round pick and whatever. They're going to hold out for as long as they can, like they did for Ramsey. And while Ramsey engineered that trade, what he did was essentially he started stripping the Rams from the core, taking things away from them,
right?
Picks, prospects, and the Rams, by the way, are in free fall. It would be great if the Jaguars had 2 top 5 picks next year. Holy cow! But they'll hold out as long as they can to get the best possible deal.
Right.
I've heard some rumors about the New York Jets could possibly offer the 11th pick in the draft and a 3rd rounder for Ngakoue.
But is that enough?
The Raiders. Well, think about it. You have 9, 11, and 20.
Yeah, but still, I think the guy, if he's as good as you say that he is, you should be able to get 2 first-rounders out of him. That's what I think.
And I agree with you. I don't know if anybody pulls the trigger on 2 first-rounders. I think it's going to be a first-rounder, a second or third pick. I'm just being logical here with the way things are. And the reason why I say that is because Jadeveon Clowney hasn't been signed by anybody yet. Remember, talent-wise, Jadeveon Clowney is a better player than Yannick Ngakoue.
Right.
And if nobody's signing him, and I'm sure he would probably sign for the $17 million that Ngakoue would get if he signs the franchise tag. But nobody's looking to trade for him right now, or at least we don't know they are.
Who, Jadeveon Clowney?
Yeah.
Well, he's a free agent. Why would he trade for a free agent?
Sorry, no. Listen, what I'm saying is that nobody is signing him in free agency.
Okay.
Because other teams may trade for a player who may not be as good as Clowney, but investment-wise, from a financial standpoint, it's better for them.
Right.
Then somebody like Clowney would have to come down, which would also make that $17 million that Jan would receive if he signed the franchise tag a benchmark.
Gotcha. Well, I see your point now. Yeah, I see your point. Okay, thanks for clarifying. So with that said, now that we're talking about Clowney, Jaguars, I think, would be an ideal fit for him, even if he's in the $12 to $15 million range, would be cheaper. Plus, they saw the guy twice a year when they're in the same division. I think that would make a whole lot of sense, believe it or not, now that we're talking about it.
I like it. It's actually been talked about in sports radio here, and it's starting to pick up steam amongst Jaguar fans, almost to the point where most fans are turning on Jan and saying, okay, you've run your mouth too much, now get out. Let's move on. And that they're picking up steam that maybe Clowney should be the guy that comes in. I don't see a defensive end in the draft that wows me.
Okay.
It's not a deep draft for pass rushers.
Right.
Espenza from Iowa, the kid from LSU, and his name escapes me, Chason, I think is his last name.
Right.
He's there. They're mid to late first round picks, but they're not dominant pass rushers. They might actually wind up playing outside linebacker in certain schemes. It's a weak draft for pass rush. So the Jaguars have to hope that somebody like some of their free agent signings, like Cassius Marsh, who Doug Marrone talked about today, who provides them an opportunity with speed off the end, can play some stand-up linebacker, gives them multiple sets that they can use. They like his size and his speed. And also, Dwayne Smoot had 6 sacks last year. Nobody's talking about him, and he had a really good season in rotation.
Right.
I think he's going to have a huge year in 2020.
Okay, so let's go on to the next thing. Who becomes the new leader of this team with Calais Campbell, A.J. Boye, and others gone from this roster? Which player do you say steps up?
Okay, offensively, it's Minshew. It has to be.
Okay.
There's no other person that it can be. They have enabled him to be their centerpiece. I thought it would be Leonard Fournette, but Leonard's just ticked off at the fact everybody's leaving. And he could still have a huge season, but the 2020 is probably going to be his last year in Jacksonville. So Minshew's the guy that's got to step up and do the moxie and throw for 4,000 yards and be better and, be the leader in the locker room. And people tend to gravitate towards him. Great.
Well,
Defensively, I think it's Josh Allen. I think he's going to – I thought about it for a while that it might be Miles Jack, but I think it's got to be Josh Allen. He comes off a 10.5 sack season his rookie year. He's hungry. He's got one of the best swim moves that I've seen for a pass rusher in decades. And he's vocal, but he's young. I don't know how you find somebody who now is a veteran and takes them outside. Kind of maybe he takes what he learned from Calais this year and applies it, and he becomes the guy.
So, I can't say that I really blame Leonard Fournette for being upset. So, with that said, what kind of a trade market is there for Leonard Fournette? And
second or third round.
Second or third?
I don't think he's worth the first round pick. Yeah, I don't think he's worth the first. Not this last year is his only healthy year, and I'm not counting the last week when he had the flu.
Right.
I'm not. He missed that game and he was very ill. But he played well and he was effective and he played a full season.
So would it be possible to see a guy like Jonathan Taylor get picked by the Jaguars, the outstanding running back out of the University of Wisconsin?
Possibly in the second round. I know we talked about this in pre-prep.
Right.
That if I'm the Jaguars and I get my first 3 picks are at 9, 20, and 42, and I've got myself a defensive lineman, an offensive lineman, and either a wide receiver or a cornerback off the board, and Cam Akers is there in the 50s, I look to trade up and grab Cam Akers from Florida State, because I think that his or maybe even the Dobbins kid, if they're both available around that time, then yeah, I would pull the trigger on trying to move up in the draft. And that's why you've got extra 4th and 5th round picks that you can use as momentum to maneuver a little bit.
So has Doug Marrone talked about a veteran quarterback coming in, or did he kind of, or was he, I should rephrase that, was he asked about it, knowing that there are some established veterans out there? And what did he say?
He was asked about it, and he said right now they've got 2 quarterbacks on the roster. You do what you can to get better, but he didn't specifically speak about bringing somebody in. Their party line has been since they brought him in. They really like Josh Dobbs. They like his intelligence. They like his arm. They like the way he practices. I have yet to see him throw a pass in the NFL. And you can't you can't say, oh, he's really good by watching him throw 10 passes, with the second team in a practice session. So they know something we don't know. I know he's a highly intelligent kid. He's an astrophysics major or something like that, or whatever. But he looks for this way over my pay grade. I'll say that. He picks up schemes really well. He reads defenses really well. He looks like he's very athletic, but who knows? But they like him a lot. So
all right.
leave it at that.
Well, I have an interesting question that just popped in my mind. Trent Baalke, what have you heard about him? Is he making any decisions, and is he formulating any opinions, or what input is he having in this draft process since Coughlin got run out of there?
It's funny you asked that, because I did a little fishing today. I don't know much. I know that he is a director of player personnel.
Right.
I don't know how much. I don't think anybody knows. And maybe somebody knows because they have an inside, source or whatever. I don't know what input he's having on the draft. I know this is a David Caldwell, very heavy-centric situation. I know that Marrone has a lot more input than he did last year. And he was asked about that today. What kind of team? He said a few months ago, I'm going to let my scouts know what kind of team I want. Which was very telling to me, because he has this idea in his head of what kind of player he wants at positions. Does that mean that? And he also said, by the way, they possibly still need help at tight end. So maybe they're not done fishing. Tyler Eifert's great, but he's also injury prone.
Right.
Josh Oliver had his rookie season wiped out. James O'Shaughnessy, 2 years in a row, a knee injury. That position stood out to me while he was talking today, is that he has an idea in his head of exactly what kind of player he wants at every position. So he must really want Gardner Minshew there. If he's not talking about a veteran quarterback and he's going to gamble and roll the dice with Dobbs, he wants Minshew to be the guy that saves his job. Is that fair to say?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you, now that you mentioned saves his job, okay, let's talk about the jobs.
You jump on that.
Of course I would. I have to, man. I'm a great white motor mouth shark here, and now you're giving me something to chomp on. Chomp, 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 chomp.
Well, there you go. I knew you'd say it.
Oh, of course. It's called GMTA, Great Minds Think Alike. All right, so anyways. Let's talk about David Caldwell and Doug Marrone. Shad Khan's gone on record saying that either win or you're out, even though they have time on their contract. Do you feel that that's still Shad Khan's philosophy, that these guys got 1 year to figure out despite the massive changes that they made during the offseason?
Well, we talked about this a few weeks ago. I thought that no, it doesn't right this moment. But that may change, too. I thought that when they traded Calais, and I told you that was the only time I would consider this a rebuild, that this season is shot. The average player on the Jaguars roster now is 25.4 years old.
Right.
You can't win football with 53 25-year-olds. The offensive line needs time to gel. They like their offensive line, by the way. They think that another year with Cam Robinson completely healed from that ACL injury, which was really worse than they let on, and another year for Jawan Taylor. I'm sorry, the name escaped me. Jawan Taylor to develop at right tackle. They still think they've got 2 solid tackles for the future. They think that A.J. Cann is still serviceable at guard. I think they're concerned with their right guard and their left guard in Norwell, because he's committed robbery by stealing $66 million from the team. Or sorry, the $30 million is guaranteed. And Brandon Linder is still a top 10 center in this league. I'd like to see a little bit more from him, but they're content with that. So they need to figure out what to do with 2 positions on their offensive line. There are teams in this league that have problems with 4 positions on their offensive line.
All right, but getting back to my original question, though, David, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Do you feel that Doug Marrone and David Caldwell are still on the hot seat, yes or no?
They're on the hot seat, but they stay till 2021.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. All right, that's fair enough. Okay, you got about...
No, I started it. I'm sorry. I danced. Sorry.
No, it's no big deal. Just asking you a question. All right, you got about a minute and a half to tell everybody how they can find you.
You can find me in Jacksonville, Florida. No, actually, I am on Twitter at DM719907. I write for Fansided. I cover the Jaguars and the NFL, and I cover the Miami Marlins and Major League Baseball.
And you can find me when I'm up in Jacksonville in good old St. Augustine, Florida, because I like St. Augustine.
It's nice up there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, my hotels are not Taj Mahals on I-95, but they work. They work out pretty good. I have no complaints. I like St. Augustine, so it's all right.
The lighthouses are nice up there, too.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't really make it up there too often that way, but at some point I will. And if I don't make it to St. Augustine, Palm Coast certainly works for me. By the way, folks, you're listening to the Sports Exchange on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network. My name is Scott Morganroth, along with Candy Ebling. David Levin is on with us. Rick Curdy began, and Bill Winters is about to follow. Any closing thoughts about what we've talked about tonight on the Sports Exchange?
I think we hit everything pretty well.
Very good. So, all right, well, tell you what, I'll give you a little bit of time to recover so we can talk more pro football tomorrow night. Okie doke?
All right.
All right,
I'll eat my Wheaties.
Yeah, you eat your Wheaties, and I'll have my Tony the Tiger Frosted Flakes, maybe. I don't know. If that doesn't work, I'll bring in grape nuts. All right, thanks.
Thanks, David.
Nuts. All right, David. Have a good night. We'll do it again tomorrow, okay?
You too.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So, what is your take of what's going on in Jacksonville, Candy?
There's been a lot of changes in Jacksonville.
Right.
This is going to be pretty much a whole new team. I think Shad Khan might give them more than just this year with all the changes that they've had. This is the true rebuild, so to speak, you know. Minshew, I mean, I can't tell you how electric the stands, the environment got when he came in. Now, whether that produces yards on the field and wins in the win column, it remains to be seen. But he definitely brings a different excitement, different leadership. How can his enthusiasm not be embraced? And
they're going to sell a lot of merchandise with him for sure. They ran Foles out of town, so they might as well get on Minshew Mania. We'll just have to see whether they can win enough games to justify it.
But I'm even saying for him as a leader on that team, because let's face it, the quarterback position is your leader.
Right.
You know, they have to be strong. They have to be. They don't have to be a cheerleader. I'm not saying
Bill Winters,
but Minshew really is.
All right, well, here we welcome former NFL offensive lineman Bill Winters to the Sports Exchange. Bill, glad to have you back tonight.
Nice to be here, Scott. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. So you're here with Candy Ebling. And Candy.
Yes, hi, Bill.
Hi, Candy.
How are you, Bill?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good.
Right.
We're having fun talking a lot of NFL tonight.
Yeah, we are. And, of course, we talked college football earlier with Jim Donnan. It's been a lot of fun tonight. So, with that said...
How'd that go? How'd that go with Coach Donnan?
Excellent. With an exclamation point. All right, we got 4 subjects I want to touch base with you here tonight before we prep ourselves for tomorrow's broadcast, okay? And item number 1, Tom Brady is going to wear number 12 for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Chris Godwin gets number 14, and he did that out of respect for Brady. What are your thoughts about the gesture from Godwin?
Well, it was a no-brainer on Chris's part. You know, he's a 24-year-old with 1 or 2 years of experience, and you got a veteran quarterback coming in who's a 20-year veteran who wears number 12, and you want to enjoy and get good team chemistry going already. One of the first things that Tom Brady did was he got all the phone numbers of all the guys on the teams, and he's been talking to them already so that they're making constructive use of downtime. And, you know, there's no selfishness on either one of these parts. It was a really generous offer by Chris, who had been wearing number 12, and he actually reached out and offered the jersey number to quarterback Brady without, coach, without Tom doing anything.
Right.
And I also think that, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but, the Patriots traded for Mohamed Sanu last year, and Tom actually called Mohamed and offered to change his jersey number because Sanu's jersey was number 12 as well. So this is a good balance between a lot of guys who just want to play winning football. So the receiving core and the, Brady are all on the same page, and, you know, they're not going to bow down anything like this, about getting upset over a jersey.
It's about time to hear things like this, isn't it, with all the stuff we've heard? Respect, it does actually exist.
Well, to be honest with you, that's what's won championships. You remember what I told you about cultures?
Yeah.
All right, and I think you're going to see this later on in the show and some of the topics that we're going to talk about later on.
Right.
There's a copycat league, but I also know that you really have to win with guys that are committed to the concept of team, that are what I consider to be smart, and I mean football smart. That means you have to work at your craft. You have to make good decisions on the field and off the field. And when I mean off the field, things with social media, because this is the ultimate in business. And if you want to win, you have to have all the guys rowing the boat, as we like to say, in the same direction. And work on the big things that really matter, winning football games, not what I call minor details that get blown up by the social media these days.
Okay, let's go on to the next subject. The NFL is going to adopt a 14-team playoff format and for the 2020 season. What are your thoughts?
Well, the owners finally got what they wanted, a 14-team playoff field. All right, this is basically a decade in the making for the owners.
Right.
They tried to push this across in 2008, 2014.
Right.
And the whole idea behind it is to boost league revenues. So, and it's going to be in excess of 9 figures for that extra, for the extra playoff format, which is, easily $1 billion. All right. And they used it as a bargaining chip to get the players to sign the CBA. I was a little disappointed in the players signing that CBA. Some of us that have been older, and the older veterans know that they should have waited a little bit longer. But, the hook was that extra pay raise. And when you got 65% of the league playing on a league minimum, of course, they're going to jump at the CBA. But the other guys, the older guys that have been around a long time, these guys are looking for more money to take care of players that are in their 40s. So, in the playoff format, it's going to go ahead and go on with a 14, game format.
Right.
All right. It's great for the coaches because I think a lot of the coaches aren't going to get fired because, there's teams probably going to make it in with an 8-8 record. All right. And they're not going to be under pressure to win at all costs. So, there'll be a little bit more stability in giving a coach maybe 3 or 4 years to get his team turned around as opposed to maybe 1 or 2 years and getting fired. So I think, overall it's not a bad thing. But, I also know that, the playoff format also helps the number 2 seed is a team that usually wins the Super Bowl. So now they got a tough road because the number 2 seed has to win 3 games. And the number 1 seed gets to sit back and relax, get paid $250,000 a game, and relax and get healthy. So that should help the number 1 seed actually win a Super Bowl moving forward.
Bill, that's it actually. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Go ahead. No, that's good.
You actually bring up a really good point, though, about the coaches. That might give a little bit more job security if they get in the playoffs. I never thought about that, so thanks for bringing that up. Interesting topic of conversation that now a guy whether he's an 8-8, but he gets in the playoffs, buys him another year. I mean, that's a pretty intriguing point. One guy that came out and spoke against it, I think it was today, was Eric Reed, and I think he probably you can relate to what Eric was talking about, that they should have looked at it a little deeper, and I think you're on the same page with Eric Reed. I don't think he thinks that they could have gotten a better deal as well.
Well, the older guys have been around for sure. Okay, are knowing that's obvious, but the reality of it is when you got 65% of the guys playing for the league minimum of $490, right, they're going to jump at the chance to have expanded rosters and get an increase in pay. And you're going to see probably, I would say, within 3.5 years, the league minimum is going to be $1 million a year.
Right.
So I think what you're doing is seeing a shift in the economics. I think you're seeing that some guys are going to have to be exceptional players like DeAndre Hopkins to get paid the kind of money that they want. And I think that the organizations are starting to try to build depth. Mm-hmm. And, they're going to try to, and that's why there's a lot of player movement as well.
Right. Good.
So you got to be careful you don't price yourself out of the league. All right, so this playoff format is going to give the owners, the money that they want to work with. Basically, how it operates is we're going to have 2 more wild card games. We're going to have, games that we're going to have a wild card weekend where we're literally going to have 3 games on a Saturday and 3 games on a Sunday. And what's really interesting is they're going to stream some of these games on Nickelodeon and everything else. And it kind of reminds me of them copying an idea from the XFL. So I think they're kind of toying around with how to reach the young people who are kind of turning off the TV sets because the games are too long and too arduous.
Right.
Too many flags. And they got to capture that audience. And a great way to do that is to have a 3-team weekend on a Saturday and 3 teams on a Sunday, and be streaming the games and get the young people in there to watch them. So it's going to be interesting to see how that format works out as well, trying to capture the young audience.
Yeah, it's interesting about what you just said. We both know that the NFL has been paying attention to what the XFL did, and I think the XFL, for the most part, was a success despite the 5-game schedule because the NFL had an opportunity to see pace of game improve. So, yeah, you're right. You bring up some other interesting points. 2 other points I want to get to.
It's kind of obvious they're going to have a separately produced broadcast on Nickelodeon. Right. That's geared directly towards the younger audience.
Right.
There's NBC and Telemundo is going to air on a Sunday at 8 in the evening Eastern Standard game. All right, so the number 7 seed is going to play the number 2 seeds in that round, meaning that the number 1 seed is going to get a first round bye. So they're kind of trying to adjust to the dynamic of what the audience wants, and also getting the money that they want, and spreading out the wealth and building debt throughout the league moving forward. So that's kind of the business model that I see.
Okay, very good point. Two other things I want to get to, then we'll talk about your YouTube channel and tomorrow's broadcast. Frank Reich, Colts head coach, studied Brady, but he was convinced that Phillip Rivers was a better fit. Obviously, being his quarterback coach and offensive coordinator with the Chargers convinced him of that. So what are your thoughts about what Frank Reich said, where he took Rivers over Brady?
Well, I think that the fact that Frank coached Phillip Rivers, that really was huge.
Right.
The second thing is that Rivers is 38, and I guess when they watched him on film, the fact that he completed 68.3% of his throws for 4,308 yards and 32 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, I think Frank's the kind of coach that says, listen, if I give you a really good defense, and I can give you a really good ground game, okay, and I don't have to make you do as much as you were doing before,
right,
and just cut down your interceptions and move the chains and get third down and complete the pass. And I think that, they think that he can operate under that kind of modem. And, Rivers worked with Wright for 3 years when he was with the Colts coach, and he was the Chargers quarterback coach in 2013. All right, so, it's a good fit. And if I was Frank Reich, I probably would have taken Rivers over Brady as well. And the fact, I don't think Tom even really considered Tom Brady. It's important to have that trust, and Frank called those plays, and he made them work when he was with Rivers. So, I've communicated that to them, and they have a lot of experiences together. That trust-building experiences should really help increase production.
Well, I think it would have been weird for Brady to go to the Colts, since there was a little bit of a rivalry and a hatred towards those organizations since the Colts called him out. So that might have factored a little bit.
Well, the other thing I'm going to say, and I know this is is important, okay, is the surface.
Right.
Okay, I think Tom Brady doesn't want to be playing on AstroTurf.
Oh, no doubt. Oh, yeah.
Period. Okay, Rivers is a 3-step drop and the ball's gone. You can survive with him. All right, on AstroTurf. And he's practiced a little bit younger, and that plays into a huge factor as a player.
Oh yeah, no kidding. I don't care if it's in baseball. I remember covering the Detroit Lions at the Pontiac Silverdome, and I was allowed to be on the field like 5 to 7 minutes before the end of the game, and I can tell you how many times my foot was on that artificial surface, and you got nothing but hard concrete. So I can appreciate everything you say. So it's natural grass, more or less, over there. And remember, the reason why Andre Dawson signed with the Cubs is he played on AstroTurf with the Montreal Expos, and he gave him a blank check, and he signed with the Cubbies for that reason. So great points all the way around, Bill. Okay.
One of the things I'll tell our audience moving forward, and one of our future shows, is I think we're going to devote a large segment to AstroTurf in general. I played on the first surface ever, Empire Stadium in the Western Hemisphere with the BC Lions.
Okay.
We used to call it Astro Rock. I played at against the Stars, and also with the Eagles when I was with the Giants.
Right.
All right, and I think moving down to Tampa and playing on grass, I always kind of say that I'm ahead of the yield curve, and I make a joke that it's taken Tom 20 years to get where I got to after 5 years, because it's all about lifestyle and finding out where you want to play.
Right.
All right, and trying to make the most money that you can. So I was, a microscopic view of Tom Brady, intelligent guy, team character guy, negotiated my own contracts and tried to take advantage of the market as much as possible. But I was smart enough not to ask for too much money to piss off management, but always try to be in the top, 80 percentile of, my earnings. And back then salaries were 20 to 60,000. So usually I was, up there around the 60 level, but not asking for too much. And Tom did the same thing at New England and spread the wealth out amongst his teams. And, he won a lot of Super Bowls because they were able to build depth because they weren't playing one player all the money. And I think that that's the culture that O'Brien and the head coach from the Giants is trying to bring in, and it's a copycat league. So I joke around a little bit about, hey, Tom, I'm glad you're down in Tampa, but we knew that in the 80s, so I'm happy for him. But I was glad to live that life a little bit too.
Well, I know that Jacoby Brissett wasn't thrilled about the fact that he has to carry a clipboard for Rivers, but you know what? If he had played well enough, he wouldn't have forced the Colts to make that change. But, Jacoby's a team player. He'll do what he has to do, and, we'll see what happens. One other point I want to get to, and then we'll let you promote yourself, all right? Dave Gettleman, the Giants general manager, has one more season to get it figured out and turn him around. Do you think that they're ready to cut him too premature? I think his record speaks for itself, so I think this is a do-or-die season for Dave Gettleman.
Well, I'm gonna stay on the line on this one. I think it's a wait-and-see attitude.
Right.
He's drafted very well with Daniel Jones and Barkley. All right, he inherited the fact that he had to get rid of a quarterback that the owner wanted. Eli Manning.
Right.
He's got a new coach coming in that I believe is a lot like O'Brien. Okay, and I think that quite frankly, there's one of two choices. Either they're just going to do politically here to see how this new head coach does, because I really like him, and he's kind of a New England type guy as far as the culture he wants to establish. I kind of like the fact that Jason Garrett's the offensive coordinator over there.
Right, that's a good hire.
I like Ivy League guys.
Right.
I will tell you right now that one of Brady's top targets is a Harvard grad with the Buccaneers.
Right.
So, when I talk about character, you're getting to the point now where these kids are coached up so well that we want to see how good they are in the classroom as well, because that has a lot to do with winning football games. In the case of Gettleman, you got guys like Jay Glazer, lighten them up a little bit. But I will tell you that I believe that you want stability in the organization, and I think Gettleman will get, 2 to 4 years to allow him to establish the team that he wanted, because after all, he's the general manager, and he's not the one out there playing, and he's got a rookie head coach. So as long as he gets along with the head coach moving forward, then I think his job is safe. But, it does, maybe the owner, when he hired the head coach, the head coach kind of will develop some power, in particular if they start to win games. And, he'll basically say, hey, I want that general manager out of there like O'Brien did. Or, they'll work too well together. So I think it's a work in progress, and I think it's too early to put the heat on him. When you have 2 losing seasons, everybody's in the hot seat.
No question
so I'm
about
not going
it.
to buy into this yet.
Okay.
I think the guy's got another year or 2 before they really start to light him up.
Let me point one thing out in Indianapolis. You talked about the Colts' strengths. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Colts snap up 1 or 2 wide receivers in the draft to help Rivers give him a few more targets to play with. Why not? I mean, they really talk about this being a top-heavy wide receiver draft. And then getting back to your point with the Giants real quick, you say 2 to 4 years. Well, he's on year number 3, and he didn't get that first hire right with Pat Shurmur, although I don't know whether I would really hold Shurmur entirely responsible for it. But with the losing, you have to make changes. And yes, you're right, Bill. He drafted Daniel Jones, who has a tremendous amount of upside. So he's in year number 3 out of that 2 to 4 year window. So it's like, okay, if you make improvement, you buy another year. But I think for him to retain his job, the Giants really have to win 7-8 games to at least show anything less than that. I think Gettleman could be, like you say, a scapegoat. So, all right, so with that said, why don't we go ahead and let you promote everything you're doing, and we'll get ready for tomorrow night's broadcast. And, of course, Rick Curdy will be on with us tomorrow night.
All right. Well, the first thing I'd like people to do is go to my YouTube channel. All right, and you can do that by going to Bill Winters Football. Type that in the YouTube search engine. All right, and a purple circle will come up. You just click on that, and and then hit subscribe. You can also reach my Facebook page by simply going youtube.com/C/Bill Winters 55. That's another way to access my YouTube channel. You can also find me on Instagram, bwinters55. I actually posted some videos today on Instagram to try to call attention to my play.
Mm-hmm.
And also call attention to our show,
right?
Which is a network called the South Florida Tribune. So you can find our show on the South Florida Tribune. And the name of our show is called Motor Mouth and Wild Bill Winters, and you can find that on Spotify, Apple, and iHeart. So hopefully we'll build an audience there. And then I'm also starting to get involved with Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, and that's just Bill Winters 55. I guess one of those Bill, and then that little lower casing, that little line that's after the L on the bottom's not a dash. I forget what they call that thing. What do they call that thing, Candy? You know.
Underscore.
See? Yes, Bill underscore and then Winters 55. Thank you, Candy.
You're welcome.
You know, she's my go-to person for the little things all the time because we can't run our shows without her. She's our producer.
No,
so,
she's a jack of all trades, man. We've turned this girl into a broadcaster, man. You should see the family back up in Wisconsin. They're in awe of her right now. They really are in awe.
I am too.
I know. That's okay. And by the way, folks, you're listening to the Sports Exchange tonight on South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network. You can also follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. I have a personal page, Scoop with 5-3. So if you're familiar with poker, a 5 of a kind gets it done. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Count them up to 5. Also, you can find us on Facebook under South Florida Tribune. And I also am heavily involved in LinkedIn for all you folks that are looking to do things professionally. That's a good way to do it, as well as the network. Any other thing you want to talk about with the network, Candy, that people should be aware of?
Come read our content. It's www.southfloridatribune.com. Read our content. Listen to back podcasts, the broadcasts. We put them on there. And comment. Give us your feedback.
All right, well, Bill, we got a good show lining up tomorrow. I'll give you an idea ahead of time what the subject line is. So since you have all day, and I don't know if you're driving, Rick Curdy and I and you are going to talk about the greatest rivalries in sports of all time, so get to work on it, all right? We're going to have a lot of fun with that thing. I know I expect every opinion to be different, and that's what's going to make this a dynamite show tomorrow night. So, but once again, folks, I hope that you've enjoyed this edition of Sports Exchange. I want to thank Rick Curdy, David Levin, Candy Ebling, Bill Winters, and, of course, myself, the Motor City Mad Mouse. Should I be thanking myself anymore? Our goal is to make sure that we provide you with the best entertainment that we possibly can, and we certainly will work diligently to make sure that you have lots of reasons to continue to listen to the broadcast. Follow them, subscribe them, and download them. If you get bored, well, you know what? We'd love to be here all the time to be your best entertainment adventure. So any closing thoughts, Bill, while we wrap it up tonight?
Just be safe. Practice the protocol that the United States is doing and the rest of the world, that we'll get through this. Just love and be thankful that you're healthy, and just do what's required, and we'll get out of this.
Well done, Bill, and everybody tonight. So we want to thank everybody for being with us tonight here, guests and all, on the Sports Exchange. We look forward to another edition of the Sports Exchange. We'll have another edition tomorrow and another one Thursday. So meanwhile, on behalf of everybody, good night, everybody, and we'll catch you around the next time.
Good night, everybody.